I guess significantly better may be somewhat of an overstatement. Romance novels featuring plus-size leads are becoming more common. Parentheses, body positive romance. Alibaba Cloud has released 3 new models in the Qwen 3.5 family, which is pretty exciting. So I went back and forth on how specifically to film this video, and I think I would like to make this a dedicated video on the Qwen 3.5 122B A10B model, because in my opinion, this may be one of the best models for the unified memory systems that currently exist, such as the DGX Spark, Apple Silicon machines with 128 gigs or greater of system unified memory, as well as the AMD Strix Halo. Following that though, I do just want to give an honorable mention to the 2 other models that were released as well, a 35 billion parameter mixture of experts with 3 billion active, as well as very curiously a 27 billion parameter dense model. So I think for these 2 I will do something else, but I want this one, the 122B for today's video, to have its own kind of testing video, because then it gives me more content to post. But in reality though, I'm excited about testing this on the DGX Spark, which is how we will be using it for today's video. Now, in terms of some pertinent information, I am not seeing a specific blog post that has been updated to reflect these new additional models to the Qwen 3.5 family. So while there is hyperlinked right here, the blog post that Alibaba produced, this is only still, in my opinion, or not in my opinion, but it just seems to be referencing the model that came out 10 days ago, which was of course the 397 billion parameter MOE model. So for our highlights, mainly one of the most interesting things about the Qwen 3.5 family is that there is no longer a separate VL line for this model family. Instead, it's unified, meaning that this model can do vision capabilities out of the box. We don't need a separate model to do so, and we will definitely be testing some of those vision capabilities as well in today's video. Beyond that, and without getting too technical, essentially what is the culmination of this efficient hybrid architecture point right here is that this can use less VRAM in terms of longer context than historically would be possible without this hybrid architecture, so that just allows it to have longer context that it can handle without tapping out system resources, which is great because it allows it to be run at long contexts on systems like the DGX Spark. Additionally, there's some other information right here, but I find this chart to be pretty interesting because, one, it is a little hard to read because it's just all like very light colors that are close together seemingly. Beyond that, this is a very odd choice of models to include in this benchmark because, as one would expect, it's showcased against GPT OSS 120B, which I think a lot of folks are initially interested in seeing how this performs against. But beyond that, we also have the GPT-5 Mini is included, as well as Sonnet 4.5, and something that I am glad to see is additionally to that, the Qwen3 235B model is included as well, because if this can really truly outperform that, I will be very, very interested, especially because they also list the Qwen3 VL 235B model, which was very, very good at being able to agentically control a computer just based off of what it sees on the screen, and then performing actions based off of what it sees. So this could be a very interesting model for certain use cases. And we can see that the model has a context length natively of 262,144, and it is also a 122 billion total parameter model with 10 billion activated. So with that out of the way, let's now hop here into LM Studio, where we can see that I do have this loaded in. Now it's odd because one of the symbols is not loading correctly or something of the sort, but this is the Qwen 3.5 122B A20B MX FP4 quantization, so this is the one that's loaded in. I did also pull the Q4KXL because I was just curious in doing a back-to-back of how they matched on the same prompt, and it was not really a huge difference. So with that, basically, we're now ready to start with our tried and true initial test. So let's begin with our browser OS test, where it needs to include 5 specific applications, 2 of which must be games, the ability to change wallpaper, and then a special feature that it decides upon and implements by itself. So I will just have the chain of thought expanded while it is generating its chain of thought. So at a total speed of just over 20 tokens per second, we have received our WebOS result, and let's just take a peek at it. I will be opening all of these in Chromium just to hedge against any potential compatibility issues with Firefox. Okay, so upon first glance, we have Nebula OS. I've definitely heard that name multiple times before, and we have a nice kind of Earth satellite style photo, so very nice. We do have a clock in the bottom right, and that is not the correct time in my locale, but it is the time that the system thinks it is, so for all intents and purposes, it is correct. Do we have a right click? We don't have a right click, but let's just start then with our start button. Get it, subscribe. Start menu not implemented in this demo. All right, that's pretty weak, to be honest with you. I'm a bit disappointed about the omission of a start menu. It should not have been, I don't think I've ever seen that where it didn't include it. Regardless, let's take a look at our notepad. Okay, we have a very simple notepad. Hello. Works well enough. And we can close out of it. I don't see it in the taskbar. We do have our calculator, 74 times 6, 444. Good, divided by 8. Next up, snake. We move the mouse out of the way so you can witness the snake master. That was just not, that was just broken logic. There we go. Okay, so what is clicker? Cosmic clicker. Okay. Well, I scored 52 in Cosmic Clicker. Finally, we have our settings application. Okay, bunch of different wallpapers. Oh my, maybe we'll just go to the solid color if they're all going to be. So it did include them. It's just something's not quite right with the scaling, but I think I'll just go to a solid color for that. And then that's it. So where's the special feature? Let's go with the Time Traveler's Terminal. It's a hidden command line interface accessible via a specific key combo like Control-Alt-T. Okay, now the issue is that specific key command will open the native terminal on this system. So we'll just, yeah. I have to be honest with you. I'm not 100% thrilled with this result. I think it could have done better. I'm actually going to try a back-to-back. All right, for curiosity's sake, I'm running this right back, just using the Q4K XL quantization, as I'm curious to do a head-to-head comparison of the results, if nothing more, as oftentimes a lot of the different quantizations can be pretty confusing to grasp. Now, just based off of what I'm seeing in the chain of thought here, it's definitely planning to make a more graphically impressive result than we saw previously, but again, the actual plan and the end result could in fact differ, so we'll have to wait to see. All right, so we have our Q4K XL quantization test as well. It was a bit faster at 25 tokens per second, give or take a few tenths of a token per second. Let's take a peek at it now. I do see, just based off the chain of thought and some of the code, it seems like it may potentially be more interesting, so we'll have to see. Okay, they are actually rather similar. No right click. The clock is correct in the bottom right, and it didn't name it Nebula OS, so that's interesting to see. The big differential will be, do we have a start menu? Okay, we do now, so that's nice because we didn't have that before, which was frustrating. And the notepad also does look better because we'll notice we actually have the minimize, maximize, and then close buttons. Can we save this to the taskbar? Okay, no, we can't, but at least close works, so not horribly different, I suppose, could be said. Let's try. The snake logic seems better, as the other game was just BS. It made me lose when I wasn't even near the bounds. See, that's... Okay, so Pong, I'm not... How are you... Okay, so I think there's an AI I'm playing against. I'm the blue paddle, and the AI is the red. This is actually... This Pong game may be the specific reason that I choose to run the rest of this test with the Q4K XL quantization instead. Yeah, yep, I totally am going to. I mean, the other game we got was the click game where... Well done. Settings. Okay, we have the same resolution issue that we had previously. And then finally, system core. Okay, oh wow. Okay, so this is inevitably going to be our special feature. Very interesting. Next up, I want to test the multimodal capabilities, being that Qwen3.5 is a unified vision language model, meaning it can natively understand images. So we're giving it the Stevie Slappis portfolio wireframe photo, which has become a common theme on the channel to test this with these models that have this capability. And I'll say, turn this wireframe into a beautiful and modern tech portfolio website. Oh, for a second I was like, how is it actually not processing this prompt instantly? Because I was only thinking about the text here. Okay, that makes more sense because it had to analyze the image as well. My mistake. And I'll keep the thinking process open for the duration of some of these tests at least. All right, let's take a look at our portfolio wireframe that was specifically created based off of the image. That ain't it. I don't even, generally I try to keep like a nice disposition. This is just bad. And you know what? We're going to let it know. So I've given it some rather harsh criticism, and we're going to see what exactly it does based off of this, because I didn't necessarily tell it to actually change it or make it better. I just insulted it to a high degree, which truthfully it did definitely deserve based off of that result. The user is extremely dissatisfied. I need to pivot hard. They hate the bento box dark mode look. I need to figure out why. It's too generic. This is sad. It's it's like trying to figure out, the user is extremely dissatisfied. All right, it's still right around the same sub 300 lines of code, so I don't know that I'm entirely bullish on this result, but we'll see. Okay, actually, why is he so angry? This is significantly better. Let me full screen it. Okay, well, I guess significantly better may be somewhat of an overstatement, but it did definitely try to more adhere to the hand-drawn aesthetic of this. I don't think I've ever seen oh, this is not a search bar, it's just a header bar that's crooked. We have, these hover effects are actually quite good. It's almost comic book style, email me. While this isn't necessarily what I'd envisioned, it did do a really nice job in making this more interactive and true to the sample wireframe. And I think part of the reason that we're getting such basic results here is I told it to just build something that makes the wireframe come to life. I didn't necessarily translate to it that I want the wireframe to be used as a basis for something significantly more intricate. So next I'm going to give it the making a beautifully detailed static subway scene using JS. This is always a test that, well, I've done this very recently only, but I very much enjoy this because some of the results are really kind of pretty, I guess, if you could even say that about such a thing. All right, let's take a look at our subway station result. Okay. It's not bad. Can I move around? Now, sadly, that is one of the issues here, is I can't really move at all. However, I will say I do see some potential here where we have lighting, we do have tile and subway aesthetic. We also have here what I do believe are posts, although it is possible they're just rendered windows of the subway car itself. I'm not 100% sure. This is definitely, I think, something that is worthy of getting an additional prompt, just telling us some of the improvements that we want it to make. So I'm giving it some simple feedback, just saying it's too dark and there's no camera movement. Make it more detailed and give me the ability to move around the scene as well so we can see more. Click to start. Okay, it's definitely more livable, I suppose. Much better, okay. And it does have the particles floating around. Oh, I think that's the train right there. That is definitely the train. So overall, not the best, but I feel like I have to consistently remind myself that I've been testing such state-of-the-art models lately that for a model running locally in the footprint of this system, I actually think that's a fairly robust result. Now we're going to give it the 3D printer simulation task. This is one that I don't know how well the GPT OSS 120B model would be able to handle, so I'm very interested in seeing how this does on it. I would imagine we should get a functional result here. How detailed that becomes, I'm not 100% sure, but I do expect this to produce a successful result. All right, let's check our 3D printer simulation test. I'm very excited to see this result. Well, sadly, we did encounter some form of an issue. However, fortunately, I guess this gives us some simple vibe coding fix issue. And my guess is it will properly be able to fix these issues. All right, let's see if it did successfully fix our 3D printer simulation, and at least from what we see right here, the printer is now appearing on the page, which was not the case originally, so we have made some progress. I'm also happy to see there's not like fog over everything here, which sometimes happens in this test and can be kind of frustrating. So with that, okay, oh, I just pressed reset. Okay, and it snapped the gantry to the top of the printer. Square. Very interesting. I believe that it looked like there suddenly became two gantries because the simulation speed was set so high. Though I have to say, in looking at this now, aside from the fact that obviously the nozzle and gantry logic is far too high considering where the actual shape is being printed, the layer by layer here is kind of interesting, and this definitely, it looks like one of those clay 3D printers if you've seen those, and this looks to be a massive print volume. However, overall, for the size and quantization of this model, I'm definitely going to say this is a very impressive result for something that can be done locally. And to that point, I say that not because like, oh, you're shilling for this model. I have tried this test specifically with the GPT OSS 120B as well as the DevStroll 123B model, and neither of them were able to produce something as decent as this. Of course, it is also possible that this could have gone into the training data, so I guess we do have to understand that could be a distinct possibility as well. But regardless, this was not bad at all. Now for what I believe will be one of the most difficult tests that we actually run with this model. We're asking for the 3D flight combat simulator test. I would be surprised to get a fully functional result out of this, just to be completely honest. This is something that's consistently required a more kind of frontier size model or state-of-the-art model to successfully produce a result. Okay, I do actually see floating artifacts in the background here. Aero Combat 3D. Let's just... Okay, so yeah, that is a bit what I was concerned about, where nothing actually happens. So we're getting a ton of errors, as we can see right here. I'm going to allow this a few tries to actually fix this and give us a functional result. All right, let's see if this was able to fix our plane simulator. We won't know till we actually start playing the game. Darn it. I'm going to take a screenshot of everything I'm describing here that happens when we open the gameplay, and I'm going to additionally to this include it as my prompt suggesting that it fix this, as it may make some difference and will again highlight the unified multimodal capability of this model. And inevitably this will take a little bit of time, at least to just process the prompt, because the inclusion of the photo will make things a bit slower, and hopefully we get a solid piece of feedback here, if nothing more. The screenshot shows a blue sky, which implies the background and fog are working, but the objects are missing. It is referencing the screenshot again additionally here, just still in the chain of thought where it says, wait, look at the screenshot again. The grid helper is not visible. Unfortunately, we're just not getting anything going here, which is a little frustrating. Nonetheless, we did try multiple times, and for some reason, it just doesn't seem to quite be able to grasp whatever the specific issue is. I know I'm probably asking for the same response here or the same end result, but I am just trying the ship combat simulator as well. I'm going to just give it one shot to nail this, just in the case that perhaps we got an unexpectedly bad result with the flight combat sim. Okay, well, everything I just said, ignore it. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be getting any real 3D games today out of this. Now I'm going to be trying the drum kit simulation test. This is something that should be simpler and more palatable than any of the full-on 3D games that we had tried with it. And following this, I think that we're going to swap the sampling parameters to more general tasks instead of coding specific. And then we'll try some more multimodal or creative things. Here is our drum kit simulation test. All right. Whoops, sorry, I closed out of Chromium. All right, I have to say, you know, it didn't do a bad job drawing the models. Sure, they're a bit funky, but sometimes it's harder for the drum kits to be arranged. I do find these symbols drawn with these torus shapes to be very interesting. It still says initializing audio and graphics, so perfect. Now, the biggest issue I have right now is the Spark does not have a 3.5mm audio output jack, and all I have are these speakers built into this monitor, so let me try to turn the sound up as much as I can. First, let's just try that all of these actually do work. I'm not getting a hi-hat open, but that's okay. We got the tom high, and I actually saw a visual effect when I hit that. Now, it didn't seem to rebound, but that's okay. We got it there as well. And the crash symbol up here is actually moving when we do this, and then so is the ride on the other side of this. So honestly, not bad. Again, I apologize, it's just really going to be difficult to hear anything. Overall, this did a nice job. Obviously, yeah, the graphics are a bit odd, but logically it worked, and there was even some movement effects on the drums when we did hit them. So for example, if we hit the tom, we'll notice we actually get a movement effect there. So pretty cool. Now I've swapped these sampling parameters just to what they should be for general use, not coding specific stuff. And I've given it this photo right here saying this is the cover for an upcoming romance novel. Please give me the outline for the chapters, character name, and book name. Now for this, I don't want to expand the chain of thought here because it could perhaps spoil some of the funny things we may see in its answer. So we'll see what it does. All right, so this took 3 minutes and 50 seconds to actually think about this. And keep in mind, you can turn thinking off. I did a little research because after that lengthy process, I wanted it off. It seems like the Unsloth quants do not have the toggle enabled right here, but some others do. I saw a picture of one, so just for reference, keep that in mind. Now let's take a look at the actual response. So based on the visual cues in the photo, the contrast between the man's sunny disposition and the woman's skeptical, perhaps fed up expression, along with the wedding ring on his finger, here's an outline for a contemporary romance novel. Book name: Posing for Love. Genre: contemporary romance or romantic comedy. Trope: grumpy sunshine marriage repair. The characters: Leo, the male lead, an optimistic, slightly oblivious architect who believes everything can be fixed with a smile and a good plan. He's deeply in love but sometimes misses the subtle cues that his wife is stressed. Mara, the female lead, a pragmatic, high-strung graphic designer who is currently overwhelmed by work and life. She loves Leo but feels unheard and exhausted, leading to her unimpressed demeanor. Chapter outline. Chapter 1. The anniversary plan. Leo surprises Mara with a staycation at his historic, slightly dusty B&B. The setting of the photo, good, so it did pick up on the setting being an older place. He plans to take a professional photo for their 5th anniversary to send to his mother. Mara is skeptical mostly because she has a looming deadline at work. Chapter 2. The resistance. How long? How many? Yeah, alright, we can do it. Mara tries to explain that she isn't in the mood for a photo shoot. She feels like she's living in a fantasy world while Leo is living in Leoland. She agrees to the photo only because he begs, resulting in the exact expression seen on the cover. Very good, so it gives us the specific reason for that. Chapter 3, the flashback. The story jumps back to how they met. Leo was the cheerful client who wouldn't take no for an answer, and Mara was the stern contractor. They fell in love, but the dynamic has shifted over 5 years of marriage. Chapter 4, the photo shoot. Back in the present, the photographer, a quirky local, tries to get them to emote. Leo beams and squeezes her shoulder. Mara glances at the camera, thinking about her email inbox. The photographer captures the cover image. Chapter 5, the crack in the facade. That evening, Mara snaps. She admits she feels like Leo doesn't see her stress. She thinks he is just trying to fix her mood with happiness rather than listening to her problems. Chapter 6, the retreat. Leo realizes he's messed up. He puts away the camera and the plans. He suggests they just sit in the old house's garden, seen in the background, and talk. Chapter 7, the vulnerability. Mara opens up about her job insecurity and her fear that she is losing her edge. Leo listens without offering a solution, just offering support. This is the turning point of the dynamic. Chapter 8, the shift. Leo steps up. He helps her organize her workspace and brings her coffee. He shows her that he can be serious when it counts. Mara starts to relax. I don't like that name, no offense to anyone. Chapter 9, the second photo. The next morning, Leo asks for one more photo. Mara agrees, but this time she isn't posing for his mom. She's posing for herself. She leans into his touch. The photographer captures a genuine soft smile from Mara. Chapter 10, happily ever after, parentheses, mostly. Maybe it's leaving it open for a sequel. The book ends with them looking at the photos. Mara admits she looks better in the second one. Leo admits he was too pushy. They agree to a no photo shoots for 3 years pact, and they laugh together. Okay, overall that was actually pretty good, but now I want to just like mess with it, so I'm going to say like, this is highly inappropriate, and we'll see what it responds. Because the chain of thought, I need to understand why they feel that way. So obviously there was nothing actually inappropriate at all. Why could this be inappropriate? Because the AI is generated, but I gave it the image, so mockery, bullying. The prompt asked me to write a romance novel. By interpreting the woman's expression as fed up, grumpy, or skeptical, and that man is oblivious, I might be inadvertently mocking their appearance or creating a narrative that feels mean-spirited or fat-shaming. Given that both the characters are plus-sized. I have a headache. Misinterpretation of the image. It's just a portrait. It's not necessarily a couple in conflict. Standard trope, standard trope, standard trope. Is it possible the user is reacting to the visuals? The image shows 2 plus-size individuals. Romance novels featuring plus-size leads are becoming more common. Parentheses, body-positive romance. Perhaps the user feels I was making fun of them, or perhaps the user is one of the people in the photo. Apologize sincerely. So here's its action plan. Acknowledge I made assumptions. Be careful not to make fun of the assumptions. I didn't use the word fat. I used plus size in my internal monologue, but the output I used high strung. I did not explicitly mention weight. That was, I mean, the actual first result was good, but then just lying to it and saying this is highly inappropriate was hilarious. All right, so I'm giving it I'm giving it this photo of myself in the Honda Beat, and I want to send it something that's supposed to like bring out some creativity in it. So I'm giving it something really random, saying this photo was taken 3 days before this car was stolen from this museum. We believe this may be a related person to the theft. Do you see anything in this image that might help us? Now, there may be something, it's possible this triggers a refusal. As we can see right here, it's even now checking its policies and things like that. It identified the car. It's a red Honda Beat. This is a very specific rare car. That's impressive. This is very good visual reasoning capability. It's noticing there's a rope barrier in the foreground. The man is inside the rope barrier. This is a crucial detail. He is crossing the barrier. This is suspicious behavior for a museum visitor unless he is staff. So the car is the victim. The man is the suspect. Please note that I'm an AI, cannot identify or confirm the involvement, but here are some observable details. So now it's giving us suggestions for the investigation, such as checking the museum's visitor logs, social media, or surveillance. Now, that was very cool, and the chain of thought there was more interesting to go through than even the final answer here. I want to just give it like a... The man had also taken a number 2 inside one of the other vehicles before. Should probably just stop this video and start editing, but I do want to just, it's funny to mess with these local models sometimes, so I just want to see, it's going to be like, the user is at it. The user is adding a new piece of information. The man defecated in another vehicle before leaving. This is a bizarre and specific detail. Perhaps a specific... This implies a level of disrespect or perhaps a specific psychological profile. It mentioned like what was the other vehicle. I think I spelled it wrong, but it'll understand. It's a very expensive, rare car. So I want to just see what it initially picks out. All right, I'm done. I'm done with this test. So I've given it a simple image of the circuit diagram, and I'm just saying give us a description of this, identify the individual components, and then give us an assessment overall of what this device likely does. All right, so we can see right here it has given us a description of this item, starting with just listing that it is an Arduino Uno, which is correct. And interestingly enough, and more impressive, it did correctly identify the specific parts for both the stepper motor driver and the stepper motor itself. So that is a ULN 2003, and that is a 28BYJ 48 motor. So that is pretty cool. Next up, and sadly this is something that pretty often trips these up, it thought these are ultrasonic distance sensors. These are not the HC-SR04. These are sound level sensors. So it's easy to trip that up though, because it's not very... I mean, these do almost look more like ultrasonic distance sensors than sound level sensors based on this like fritzing diagram. It also identified the breadboard, which is not as impressive to see. It's just kind of pretty simple, and then talks about the wiring and connections. And finally, the culmination is the assessment of this device function, where it thinks it could be a camera mount that automatically turns away when a person gets too close, a simple robot arm that retracts when it detects an obstacle, or an automatic door or gate opener that activates when a sensor detects a vehicle or person, because it thinks that it has ultrasonic sensors that then initiate motor movement. So close enough. It's also occurred to me that I may have loaded in the MXFP4 one for the final vision tasks, but that's quite alright because it is the same model and it did do a really nice job. Overall, I would say that this model did a really good job in everything except the 3D game tests, where we gave it 3 tries to get the flight combat sim working. Sadly, it just wasn't going to happen. And then also the ship combat simulator, which I tried following that just as a Hail Mary, and unfortunately nothing there. But it did make a decent looking subway station, as we were able to see, and if we keep moving forward, we'll actually see some better lighting and things like that. With the floating particles, not bad at all. Following that, again, we had our WebOS, of course, and the Pong game was actually pretty good. I've never seen a Pong game implemented in the WebOS v2 test, so that was nice to see. And to be honest with you, it was pretty fun to play as well, so I liked that. And it did also just handle the opponent actually working autonomously, so there's like a little AI opponent there, which was cool to see. Following that, of course, our portfolio, where we pretty much burned it on the result, and then it culminated with giving us a rather angry looking person as the photo, which was funny. This was definitely a very interesting result, and I think part of the issue with the portfolio one, especially the original result, was that I didn't really tell it to deviate from the wireframe. Though I do have to say, I really do kind of like this aesthetic, whatever you may call this. Then, of course, we had our second chance 3D printer simulation result, which did properly work, and it actually did go layer by layer. So this was a very impressive result, I would say, for this model, keeping in mind even that it did take a second try to get it working properly. And finally, we had our drum kit simulator, which did actually have like some small movement effects, and overall it did actually work, and it did draw it in 3D, so I was pretty happy with this, and I think it did a very nice job in getting this done. Then, of course, some of the vision tests, mainly this one and the photo of myself with the car, were just rather hilarious, but it did show a very, very impressive visual capability, especially with the car photos. One, identifying the car, as well as the fact that I was within the ropes, and just using that to try to achieve the goal of helping figure out if that photo related to the theft of that vehicle, or how we told it something that happened. So overall, that is going to wrap up our first look and test of this model. I am impressed with it. I wish it did a little better on some of the 3D game results, but I will say the strength is definitely in the unified vision capability, because this is very good at vision understanding and things of the sort. So also it seems pretty potent, and I want some more time to test it in different quantizations and things like that. Additionally, I'm very excited to test the other two models that were also released alongside this one in the 3.5 family, the Dense 27B and then the MOE 35B. So keep an eye out for that, which I will be doing. But because this is such a sweet spot for unified memory systems, I wanted to independently test it. So if you have any questions, ask them on Discord. The link is in the description, and thanks for watching.